Well, Naomi Judd, welcome to the A-list.
Well, Allison, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
You're my new BFF.
Oh, I love that. I love that. The world knows that now.
Yes, they do. But aren't you nervous?
No, not at all. You know why? Because I know that you love PBS, and so this is going to go great.
It's true, it's true. Quick story, Winona and I were on Jay Leno one night, and they had just had somebody come on that talked about the 5 scariest words. I think the guy was a psychologist, and he said the number 1 thing was speaking in public, and number 2 was sharks and fire and all that. And he asked Winona, he said, what do you think, what are the scariest words for you? And Winona went, live TV with my mom. So, good luck,
yes,
dear.
Yes, thank you.
But I am a huge PBS fan.
What's your favorite show?
I like Nova. Anything with Alan Alda, anything about science. But if I was a kid, I would certainly be watching Mr. Rogers. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
If only
Sesame
you really did
Street.
sing that theme song. It would have been gangbusters.
But true story, we've only got 4 networks, ABC, CBS, NBC, and then, of course, PBS. And I'm not saying that I'm for censorship, but I believe that art, like morality, is about knowing where to draw the line. And I get pretty stinking angry at what's on those other networks. Because, you're supposed to have the so-called family hour from 6 to 9. I don't think so. It gets pretty salacious.
Well, this is on at 8:30, so I know you'll keep it clean.
Yes.
So let's start.
You don't know me very well, do you, dear?
There's so much to talk about, but let's start at the beginning. Tell us about growing up in Åshland, Kentucky, and what that was like.
Little old Åshland, Kentucky. Well, they interviewed my mom one time. Her name is Polly, and boy, is she a firecracker. Another redheaded. And they said, what was she like growing up? And my mom said that it was like having Shirley Temple in your house. So, but I have to tell a sad story here. My mom's 86, and we just had to put her in an assisted living facility back home because she needs care. So that's really, really hard on me because she knows that she can't go back to the house that we bought from my Judd grandparents that she lived in for 64 years. So it's really tough.
And she was a homemaker.
Yeah.
And also a cook.
Yep. Daddy ran a gas station, Judds friendly Åshland service, and I could walk to it. I could go over and jump on, they had that cord when the car pulls in. It goes ding, 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 ding. I used to go over and jump on the cord, and that meant, Daddy, stop what you're doing and pay attention to me. But my daddy was one of these good old country boys. He didn't know how to tell us he loved us, so he just worked like a brute at the station so we could have braces and a new bicycle and that kind of stuff. But I adored him, and I'd be playing out in the neighborhood and playing kick the can or whatever, and I'd hear Daddy's old truck, this beat-up old black Chevy truck that said Judds Friendly Åshland Service on it, and I knew he was coming home, and I'd run to that front gate and jump up on him and say, I love you, Daddy, so that he'd say, I love you back. But he went squirrel hunting and fishing and smoked unfiltered Camels, read Mickey Spillane, watched Cavalcade of Sports every Friday night. So you get the picture.
Now, every time I see you, either in an interview or a picture taken, you always look fabulous. And well, you're really a fashionista. Yeah. But I understand you've been like this since you were a little girl.
It's
fashion
true,
always
it's
been
true.
important?
I got $1.50 a week allowance, and I talked Daddy into matching it for me so that I could go down. We had one store called Parsons, and it had 3 levels, and of course I thought it was Saks Fifth Avenue. But we had a movie theater, the Paramount Theater, and I'd save my allowance, and every Saturday I'd go to the matinee down there, and it was a whole different zeitgeist. People didn't lock their doors. We knew each other. I was in every home within like a 3-block radius. It's very sociable. And I could walk to the 3 schools that I ever went to, and I could walk to the First Baptist Church where I played piano. I was a town good girl. I made honor roll grades, and I was a pretty good kid. I don't ever remember getting spanked. I think I got spanked 3 times. And neither of them were my fault.
Life was slow, but was it easy?
Absolutely, yeah. And our lives revolved around school and church, and that was pretty much it.
So as you went into your senior year in high school,
Uh-oh.
Things changed.
Yeah, it was 1963. You guys remember, first of all, JFK was assassinated in November, and the Beatles had I Want to Hold Your Hand. We were in full-blown Beatlemania. But 1963, yep, small-town America. And everything I believed in and trusted and counted on just exploded into chaos. Everything that had been kind of like the Waltons, remember? Andy Griffith Show. That was us, Åshland, Kentucky. But not before my senior year of high school, Mom and Daddy took their life savings out from underneath the mattress and had to take my little brother Brian, who was redheaded and actually looked kind of like Opie on Andy Griffith. And I was the oldest of a big, poor family where we were blue collar. But they took Brian in the back of our blue family station wagon to the next state to a hospital because he had Hodgkin's disease. And that night, an older boy in town came by and got me pregnant. I was a virgin, had no idea what was even going on. So.
And that one time's all it took.
Yep. 9 months later, I gave birth to Winona Ellen Judd. Graduation out of high school. I mean, how does that work? Work with me, God. There's 364 other dates you could have picked. Yeah, but graduation out of high school. Unbelievable.
So what was that year like for you? Was your family understanding? Did they embrace you?
No. Nobody ever talked about it. In fact, I don't remember Mom and Daddy ever asking me, how do you feel? You're pregnant. They never said, let's get together and figure out what we're going to do here. There was no option. So when I told the boy that I was pregnant 3 months later, he left town and we never heard from him again. Ever.
He never met Winona?
Nope. Never contacted us again, and never heard a peep.
But you still got married?
I married an older boy in town that had had a crush on me, and Winona had a roof and a family, and it lasted 8 years. I gave birth to Ashley, the sunshine of my life. And then he moved us out to Hollywood. Follywood. And as soon as we got out there, then I kind of gave myself permission to get a divorce because it was a loveless marriage. So all of a sudden here I was in L.A. without a car. I remember taking the kids to the pediatrician. I remember taking Ashley, the pediatrician, with 102 temperature on the city bus. So hard times. And I worked 2 jobs, and it was unbelievably hard. We were a paycheck away from the street all the time, so it was desperate, and everything it's like it was coated with a film of desperation because I didn't know anybody. I didn't want to know anybody out there. And
but when Winona was born, you wrote a great sentence in your book saying that you were already a team.
yes.
The foreshadowing of that is pretty incredible.
I think I said that she came out screaming on key and searching for harmony. But she was born in the eye of a hurricane, bless her heart. And then, like I said, I divorced their dad when Ashley was 4 and Winona was 8, so it was hard times. But I had never had a boyfriend. I'd never really dated or anything. And there was a boy next door. Looked like James Dean, so I'll call him James Dean. But he turned out to be an ex-con on heroin when he beat me. So.
Greatest lesson of Hollywood.
Yeah. But it was very scary. Very, very scary.
How long did you last there?
Well, when when I broke up with him, he hit me, and I didn't know what that was about because I had no idea. I had no frame of reference about that kind of stuff at all. But he hit me, and I kind of thought it was my fault the first time. And I hear that a lot when I go to rape centers or talk to abused women. I hear that a lot because I didn't know any better. I didn't have anything to compare it to. And but the second time he did it, I went, this ain't working. So I broke up with him, and he moved in across the street in an apartment right across the street so he could stalk me. And that after that night that he almost killed me, he shot up heroin and passed out, so I escaped to a cheap motel, the Holloway Motel on Little Santa Monica Boulevard. It's still there, and it freaks me out every time I go by it. I mean, anytime we would go to the Grammys or the Oscars with Ashley, we go right by there, and it messes up my makeup because I totally lose it every time. Door number 8. But anyway, I escaped to this motel with the kids. I remember they had those pajamas that have feet in them. Mm-hmm. Funny the things that you remember. But then I went to West Hollywood Sheriff's Station on Little San Vicente Boulevard across from the park where I used to take the kids. And that's when I found out he was an ex-con out of McAlester, Oklahoma.
So what was life like for you and the girls with all of the struggles of being a single parent and elsewhere? What kind of world did you create for them inside your apartment or inside wherever you were living?
Well, I moved from Hollywood to a mountaintop back home in Kentucky after that because he would have killed me. In fact, we lived without a TV or a telephone on top of this mountaintop. And I remember that Winona and Ashley kept threatening to report me to Child Protective Services. No TV, no telephone. That's child abuse. But I put myself in nursing school because I wanted a career, and I earned a lot more than my RN degree. I earned self-respect. But during that magical time was when Winona discovered the guitar. Like I said, she was 12, and she was a round peg in a square hole. And I always knew that she would never work a 9-to-5 gig. She was just very different. And I remember the magic words I said when I handed her this cheap guitar. I said, "This is a guitar. Do not break it over my head." Because by that time we had a very, what's the right word?
Contentious.
Contentious, thank you. Relationship. She was a teenager, and little Ashley was 8, and I started reading her the Chronicles of Narnia, and she fell in love with books, and now, of course, she's this magnificent actress, and she has this whole encyclopedic range of characters to choose from because her imagination just flourished and blossomed. And but I was not your usual mom because everything was an adventure. We were so pitiful, and I didn't want the kids to know it. So I turned everything into a bit of a fantasy. I tried to make it a game and acted like I was in control, and because I was all they had. You know, if they knew how bitter and how awful things really were, we wouldn't have made it. And it's fun to read an interview or see them on TV or whatever, being interviewed, because I realized that they didn't know. They really didn't know.
When you gave Winona that guitar when she was just 12, because I think you said music was a way that you could communicate. Mm-hmm. Did it ever dawn on you that that gesture would turn into a career?
No. I was just looking to find a way for her to be able to express herself, and it became evident pretty quickly on that this was, it was almost like an appendage. It was like that was part of her, and it was evident as she began to sing And you know, all of us parents think our kids are great, and but I knew there was something there. And I was actually going to go on and get my doctorate. I was going to use my RN degree to work myself through medical school. I wanted to go to the University of Louisville Medical School, which is in our home state of Kentucky. And I had this very noble, romantic idea about working with my people there in Appalachia, the unloved and the unlovely. And when we first moved to Nashville, people don't realize this, but I pitched Winona as a solo artist, and everybody turned her down. But we had this cheap little Kmart tape recorder, which I still have, and to get her, because she'd had no attention span, to get her to learn a 3-minute song all the way through, I would sing harmony and teach her the words and everything, because she had the attention span of a gnat, and I didn't know how I was going to get her to stay with it. And you could hear my harmony on it, and that's how we became a duet.
And at one point you were the Soap Sisters.
Yes.
How did you get that name?
Well, there was an early morning show on WSM, famous WSM TV in Nashville, Tennessee. It was on at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I had told Winona we weren't going to sing, we weren't going to make any public appearances, do anything until she graduated from high school. That was sort of the carrot in front of the horse's nose, because she gave a flip about school. She didn't care anything about school. I spent every Friday afternoon at the guidance counselor's office. In fact, I ran into him at Publix, the grocery store back home recently, and he said that he remembers very clearly one time Winona was called in because she was failing in math, and she said, Mr. Gleben, I don't need to be able to do math because I'm going to be a rich and famous singer someday, and I'm going to hire an accountant.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
Can we acknowledge for a minute that nobody has their birth name except for Ashley? So you were born Diana, and Winona was born Christina, and
Claire.
Ashley was born Ashley.
Yep.
How did all of that transpire?
I tried to get Ashley to change her name to something like Ramona or whatever, and she wouldn't do it. But my birth name is Diana, and I changed it way before we ever even thought about any kind of a show business career. There was a little girl in our town whose name was Naomi, and she was rather homely, and I guess I was around 30 years old, and I've had a metamorphosis. My mom had spoken to me in 7 years. My daddy had left mom for a girl my age, and I just had nobody. It was sort of a transformative time for me, where I really understood the deepest source of my identity was God, as I believe in God, my higher power, and I changed my name so that I would stay eternally grateful, and I changed Winona's name.
After a song.
Yes. Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, because she was incorrigibly late. We were always waiting on Winona.
Thank goodness we're not all named after our idiosyncrasies, I can imagine.
Yeah. But no, we didn't change our names when we got into show business. We'd already changed them long before that.
And how did you get into show business? What was your big break?
Oh, boy. Nobody's ever done it this way. Well, let me get closure, because I can wander out into the weeds, in case you haven't noticed. You asked me about the Soap Sisters. Well,
right.
There was an early morning TV show, Ralph Emery. Do you remember Ralph Emery? Anybody? He had Nashville Now and all those shows. Just a good guy. But he had an early morning show, and they'd do the school closures, the tobacco report, all that stuff. And it was live, and they had a little band, a little house band, and they would have musical guests. And I told Winona, if you can even come close to honor roll grades, if you'll just pass, we can go and be on the show in the morning. And the first time we were on the show, Ralph refused to believe that we were mother and daughter. He thought we were sisters. And I showed him how to make homemade lye soap on the show. because I can make lye soap. I can also put in a garden, birth a baby, tell the difference between a poisonous snake and a regular snake.
Carry a burning mattress out of a house?
Yeah, I can do that. One of them set fire to a mattress, and I had to carry it out of the house on my back. Open the door. No, you're carrying a burning mattress, Mom. Open the door. It's a story in the book. You read the book. But anyway, we would be on the early morning Ralph Emery show, and he started calling us the Soap Sisters. Until one day I finally showed him my driver's license. I went, see, I'm really the mom.
So why was your big break unconventional?
I was taking care of a young girl named Diana Mayer in the hospital. By now I was working in ICU at the hospital. And I waited till she was discharged from the hospital. I was very professional. And I took Brent Mayer, her dad, that little CD of us singing together. And he had a recording studio. And he said he about ran off the road when he heard us singing together because it was so off the wall. It was so weird. We were singing a song I'd written called Daddy, Are You Coming Home Tonight?, which is a song about coal mining back home, and I was playing the harmonica. It was really corny. Really corny. Me? Corny? Really?
And then Don Potter came in the picture?
He brought Don Potter out to Brent became our producer.
Okay.
And started writing songs for us. And he took us to RCA Record at that time on fabled Music Row. Was like the biggest. They had Dolly Parton and Alabama, Kenny Rogers. These are the biggest acts in the business at that time. And he got us a rare live audition. Nobody did that. You had a bio. You had a headshot, professionally done, 8x10. We had nothing. I was wearing a $30 flea market dress. Winona and I weren't speaking to each other because she had let her rabbit eat my aloe vera plant that I'd brought all the way from California. We weren't even looking at each other. But we had this rare live RCA audition, and I remember my knees were knocking. I just couldn't even control myself. I was shaking violently. I was so scared. There were 5 people in the room, and it was Joe Galante, Tony Brown, who later became the biggest producer in Nashville, Tennessee. And these guys were the mover and shakers of our industry. And we sat down in front of them and sang a couple of songs. I remember Winona was so scared, and I thought, who am I? What am I doing to subject my daughter to this kind of incredible, nerve-wracking situation here? And I just looked at her and I said, okay, imagine that we're on the back porch of Chanticleer, the name that I gave to the house that we lived on the mountaintop without the TV and telephone. And something happened. We were just transfixed. All of a sudden, we were on the porch at Chanticleer, and we just kind of locked eyes and started singing together, and they gave us a contract.
Thank you for joining me for the first half of this very special season finale. Tune in next time for the conclusion of my conversation with Naomi Judd. See you then.